If you have your phones, you can take your Quran out or you can grab a Quran. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll get started. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah bil alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'du. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli ya rabbal alameen. So we spoke about the beginning of the verse number 11. As verse number 11 speaks about roughly 6 different elements that can separate a community. And remember, we mentioned that these elements that separate a community either are a means for separating a community or a means for lessening or weakening the what? The weakening the community, but weakening a person individually, a person's what? Iman. Weakening a person's iman. Because we have to remember, if a person commits a sin continuously, this can be a means for weakening their faith. For weakening their faith, their belief in Allah, and different manifestations of that belief, from trust, from awe, from fear, from mindfulness in general. When one is continuous in those sins, that is what can take place. So yesterday we read the first 3. Who can remember the first 3 that we read, that we talked about? The first one was scoffing. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la yaskhar. Yaskhar, sakhara, right? Yaskhar qawmun min qawmin asa an yakunu min khayran minhum wala nisa'un min nisa'in ala asa an yakunna khayran minhun. And not women should scoff, and neither at one another. Perhaps the one group may be better than the latter. So the first one was scoffing or scorning a person, and then the second was what? Defaming. وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ لَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. And defaming, and we notice how Allah said أَنفُسَكُمْ, being that if you do it to someone, it is as though you are doing it to yourself. And we gave the example of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he told someone not to curse his own parents. He told an individual not to curse his own parents. And they asked how, and what was his response? Who remembers? Exactly, because if you curse someone else's parents, they're going to curse your parents. Ahsantum. And then the last portion was وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. And we said النَّبْزُ هُوَ الْبُعْد or إِبْعَاد. When you speak, giving bad nicknames to someone, or giving a person a nickname that they do not like, that will separate the community because they will not want to be around you. If you say Ya fasiq, or Ya sharib al-khamr, oh the sinner, or the person that drinks liquor, or you mention a characteristic of themselves that they do not like to be mentioned in front of people, the more you do that, that can separate a community. So those are the first 3. And what the scholars have mentioned is what is so beautiful here is the first 3 are those that are in the presence of the receiver. So the one you are scoffing at is in front of you. The one you are making fun of or defaming is in front of you. The one that you are giving a nickname is in front of you. But the next 3 are fi ghiyabihim, are in their absence. Doing the next 3 things are things that are done in the absence of the latter. And this can further separate a community and also weaken one's faith. So who is going to read this portion of the chapter for me? We're going to do it one in Arabic and then one in English, inshallah. If someone does raise their hand, I will call on them. Sheikh Abdullah Aziz, fadl. 11. No, afwan, yeah, 12, afwan, jazakallah khair. بعض Try to, when you say, try to, that's the American raw that we use, the raw, refrigerator. Kari, kari, kari. No need, don't use the lips, just kari, tumu. Kari, kari. Kari. There you go. Good. Very good. Ahsantum, mashallah, mashallah. Who's going to read it for us in English? Check out Ahmed. Oh, you don't have the other Arabic? Okay, read the Arabic. Bismillah. 12, now. Very good, very good. Jazakallah, ahsantum, shaykh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. And I always say it's Ibn al-Abbas, but it's Ibn Mas'ud, radiyallahu anhu, where he says, whenever you hear Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, then pay close attention, for verily it is what? It is a command that Allah is ordering you to fulfill or do, or a prohibition that He's ordering you to, what? Stay away from. I mention this every time, so we can memorize the statement of one of the greatest people that ever lived, of Ibn Mas'ud, radiyallahu anhu. Then he says, avoid much suspicion. اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم. So the first means of separating a community is having dhann. And dhann is suspicion. Now the word dhann can be used depending on the context and what discipline you are talking about, to where it could be between doubt and certainty. It is in the middle. You have certainty and then you have doubt. Dhann could be in the middle, to where you're not exactly certain, you're not exactly full of doubt. But dhann here in this particular context means suspicion, to where you have some thought about someone. Jazakallah khairan. MashaAllah. All for the sheikh. For the shuyukh here. MashaAllah. Dhann is some suspicion that you may have. Now notice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, stay away for ijtanibu kathiran min al-dhann. And dhann, suspicion, is the suspicion that is bad. Because when we talk about the thoughts of someone, this can be translated as thoughts depending on the context, as we mentioned. When we talk about thoughts, thoughts are of two kinds. The thoughts that are good thoughts of someone or something, and the bad thoughts. As in Arabic, they say, husnul dhann. You hear something about someone? No, I don't think the brother's like that. I only know good of the brother. No, I only know good of this individual. And then you have the opposite, which is su' al-dhann. Bad or evil thoughts, or anticipations, or expectations, dare we even say, of someone. Now, the initial characteristic that a Muslim should have towards another Muslim is what? Husnul dhann. That they have a good thought about their brother or their sister. Having su' al-dhann about someone initially without any proof is haram. And that is what separates a community. But this is in the absence of the person that you may have bad thoughts about. But what can happen is if you have bad thoughts about that person with no solid proof, you may act in a way that is according to your thoughts about them. You may not give them salams because they are from a certain demographic. They are from a certain masjid. They are from a certain jama'ah. They are from this. They are from that. But they're Muslim. But because of that title that you may think of them, you automatically assume everything else that may follow it based on your assumption, not knowledge. So acting towards another Muslim based off of evil thoughts without any evidence is what separates a community. And when you continue to do this, it will carry over to someone else, which can lessen the iman, because it will affect your what? Your manners, your khuluq. To where you treat someone unjustly just because of the way they look, right? The way they may have spoken, but you don't even know that individual. And that is su' al-dhann. But notice here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, kathiran min al-dhann. And what does kathiran means for the non-Arabs? Who knows what kathir means? Yes. Almost. Minus that everything by a little. A lot. Very good. Very good. There's kathir, there's a lot, and there's akthar, which is more than, the comparative, right? So when we say kathiran min al-dhann, Allah didn't say aktharu dhanni. He said kathir, meaning just a lot. So the basis is that our assumptions or our thoughts are mubah, or that which should be good. But even within the evil thoughts of someone or something, or a bad thought, or dare we even say a thought that is disadvantageous about the one that you have thoughts of, okay? So for instance, he is not good at buying and selling. He is not that honest, okay? I wouldn't deal with him. I wouldn't buy a car from him. He has a used car lot. I wouldn't buy a car from him. He wants to go into business with you and getting a restaurant. Wallahi, I'd be hesitant because he is not an honest person. If I say that because his uncle was known to be dishonest, is that one okay? Is that type of, it's not okay because there's no proof. Because his relative was like that is not sufficient proof. So me saying that initially is haram. But this thought or statement about him with substantial proof being that, wallahi, he's dealt with 3 people that I know and he's ripped them off. He's dealt with 3 people that I know and he pays them on time, or he's good in his business dealings, but he always has bad manners when dealing with the customer, right? So that is something that is disadvantage for him in the future to do business with him. But that type of one, or that type of suspicion, or that type of thought that one may have to where he may display it to someone else, is that permissible? Is that allowed? To where I say, well, he's not that good in business because 3 people that I know have dealt with him, and they said, well, I wouldn't do business with him if I were you. This is permissible because there's what they call a qarina. There are proofs, there's substantial evidence from 3 people, reliable because they've done business with, and they've shown you proof. Community members may have said something, more than one. It's almost unanimous within a community. People that don't know one another have told you the same thing about this brother that wants to propose to your daughter, or this daughter that wants to marry your son, and they say, wallahi, I've seen the way he acts when he plays sports. He loses his temper and he goes crazy, right? I've seen him on the internet. He smiles in your face, but on the internet, he's the other name, right? I've seen him in certain situations, how he acts. So this type of one is permissible, even though it's under the umbrella of bad thoughts or bad statements about someone. This one is permissible. That's why Allah said kathir, a lot, okay? And then he said, inna ba'd al-dhanni ithm, and that's why ba'd al-dhann, that dhann is the 3rd kind within the evil thoughts or statements, which is sinful, that which is not supported by the substantiated evidence or proof. Okay, that's very, very important. Very, very important. So that's the first one, is where one has suspicion. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and spy not, and spy not. Spying is what they call tajassus. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Do not spy on one another. Do not look for the uyub and min al-nas. Do not look for their deficiencies, or that which is disadvantageous for them, and that characteristic that they may have, but you're not sure of, because of that evil thought, and you want to confirm it by spying. Did everyone catch that? You may have an evil thought that is not substantiated, so you want to spy on him to confirm, or her to confirm that. And that spying, all of this is within falls in the category of a bad intention. A bad intention is what drives you to do that. All of this is permissible, and it can separate a community. Okay? And he says tajassasu, and there's some other qira'at where it says tahassasu. And tajassasu is to where one is spying on a person for their uyub min al-nas. So when we talk about that, one is spying on that individual, and they're spying on him without his or her knowledge to find something that confirms that evil thought. It is important that if this is for no initial benefit, the Muslims should stay away from it. They should stay away from finding the faults of that brother or sister. Okay? But if it's something that is affecting someone else for the right of that person, that's where there may be justifications. if it's to protect the community, if someone is taking advantage of people and they may have a lofty position and more than one person has said it and it's been confirmed by more than one person, that is where the proper individuals that have the means to eradicate that can spy. And that's why in the next portion, the third portion, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَجَسْ or وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. And يَغْتَبْ ghiba is backbiting. That is what is termed as backbiting. Now, is backbiting permissible? Are there any exceptions? That's not backbiting. هذا ما هو backbiting. هذا ما هو غيبة. هذا كذب. You're saying lying to bring people together. That's fine. That's sunnah. Are there any exceptions when it's permissible to backbite? The word backbite theoretically, to where you say, firstly, let's say the meaning of backbiting. The meaning of backbiting was defined by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is what he termed as ذِكْرُكَ أَخَاكَ بِمَا يَكْرَهُ. It is your mentioning of your brother of that which he dislikes. So does backbiting, is it only for that which is false? Right. It can be anything that the brother dislikes or sister. So it can be something true about them, but they don't like it to be mentioned, and you mention it. That is backbiting. You mention it in their absence or their presence? In their absence. Just like spying and these bad thoughts. In their absence. Right? Okay? So there are exceptions to where this saying something that your brother may not like, by definition, is allowed. One of them is marriage. Right? For you that have gotten married, I guarantee you people have asked about you. I hope your current father-in-law has asked about you. Okay? If you are a father, you better ask about him. Okay? Right? Now, if you are being asked, it is obligatory. It's what? Obligatory for you to disclose information to that father-in-law that may assist in his decision making, especially if you're a person that knows and is confirmed. For instance, a brother wants to find out, he wants to marry his daughter, and then he asks you, well, you live in Coppell, yes? Yes, he's been born and raised in Coppell. Does he pray at the masjid at all? You say, I don't want to, because if I say that he doesn't, it's going to mess up the opportunities for this brother. And if I say that he does, I'm lying. It's obligatory for you to say, wallahi, brother, as long as I know, to my knowledge, and he knows that you're a congregant of the masjid for 10 years, I hardly ever see him. As a matter of fact, I've never seen him. Okay? And the best way to introduce this, because I've been put in this situation numerous times, and many of us have, is to say, as far as I know. As far as I know, ... And then you end it with, Allah hasibuhu, nahsibuhu kadhalik. This is what the Prophet used to say. Allah hasibuhu, and Allah is his accounter, and this is what we know of him. That's it. Right? You're saying what you know, and you want to disclose that this is what I know, brother. Would you do business with this brother? Well, this is what I know. As far as what I know, this is what you probably want to talk to the brother. If a brother has told you something or a sister has told you something about him and it was very detrimental, whether it's his character or the way that he deals with people, I want to refer you to this brother. Brother, what is it? What is it? Sister, what is it? Just tell me. No, it's not my right to tell you because I didn't directly deal with him. I would refer you to this brother. Here is his number. Call him and ask him about this situation. Now, this is the way that it should be done. Okay? So the Prophet ﷺ is saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La yaghtab. Also, the Prophet ﷺ was approached by, I can't remember which female companion this was. She came to the Prophet ﷺ and she wanted to get married. Which female companion was this? And she asked the Prophet ﷺ about two individuals, because they both came to her, Muawiyah and Abu Jahl. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Amma Muawiyah fa su'luk la mala lah. He said, Amma Muawiyah, he has no money. He's broke. And he said, Amma Abu Jaham, he said, La yada' asa an atiki. He said he does not take the cane off of his shoulder. And some scholars mention that he is very aggressive. Okay? Ankihi Usama. Marry Usama. He told her to marry Usama ibn Zayd. Now, so the Prophet ﷺ said something about Muawiyah and Abu Jahm, things that they would not like. But this was to maintain the rights of the sister that came and sought advice. So if someone is coming to seek advice from you in business or in marriage, and especially the Hanafi method, they bring a lot of similarities because this is the rights and honor of someone when it comes to a transaction. So it's upon you to disclose that information if you are the qualified person to do so. If it's just gossip and you're not sure, you're 51 to 100% not sure, it is upon you to be quiet and refer them to someone else. Does everyone understand that part? It's very, very important because this can easily split a community. Okay? And also there's other transactions we see from scholars of hadith of the past, the hadith that are transmitted to us. If you ever have the opportunity to read books of the graders of hadith, such as Imam Ahmad, Yahya Ma'in, a number of scholars of the past, Imam Malik, when they would grade or they would be graded on people of hadith, basically, you know, we have hadith, you have chain of narration all the way to the Prophet ﷺ. There is a stringent or was a stringent process of who to take hadith from. You know, these hadith that you read from Imam an-Nawawi, when we say sahih, it's not just something that you type up on Google. Back in the day, they talked to one person. No. There was a stringent, it is a whole discipline. In Medina, there was a 4-year college of hadith. 4 years. There was one subject matter called al-wad', a whole subject matter, a whole year, to where you just study the people and the methodologies of the people that would voluntarily and intentionally place hadith into the science. They would say the Prophet ﷺ said it, and they know the Prophet ﷺ never said it. And that's what you call hadith mawdu', a lie. They know the Prophet ﷺ never said it, and they would say it. And the main purpose behind them doing it is because if they hear that if I tell them that the Prophet said it, they would accept it. The hadith is good. If I say, for instance, you know, those who come to the masjid on Friday and purchase kebab, uncle, they will be of the ones that Allah loves because they have provided and helped their fellow neighbor, brother. You know, this is something that I'm encouraging people to do good, and I say the Prophet ﷺ said it. It's a lie. Right? And wada' means to place something. No, the Prophet said, whoever lies upon me, فَلْيَتَبَوَّأْ مَقْعَدَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ, then let him find his seat in the hellfire. So there were people in history that did this, and they had intentions of good to call people to the truth, but the way that they did it is totally haram. And it can tarnish a legacy of Islam. In any case, scholars of hadith in the past, there would be people that would travel to a certain person, and they would say, what do you know about this person? And they would say, kadhab, he is a liar. Or they would say, his memorization is very weak, don't take from him. Or they would say, yani, after his books were burned or his books fell in the sea, his memorization was tarnished. So be hesitant on taking from him. Now that person would not like that. But it is to uphold the what? The tradition of Islam. So therefore it's justified. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا, and then he gives a comparison. Would any of you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother? You would hate it. So listen, look at the comparison that he gives with something that is hissi, something that our senses can encounter. Would you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother? أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. So he said, would you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother? But then he mentions the status of the flesh of that person. Dead. Do you see the comparison? If he's dead, is he aware? No. And also you ate the flesh of your brother. Showing how severe that is, eating his flesh and taking something from him, which is his honor. Which is his honor from that particular individual. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاتَّقُوا, and fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or be mindful of him. Inna Allaha tawwab ar-rahim. And we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again mentions tawwab ar-rahim. He is the all-forgiving, and the most merciful. So fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be mindful of him. Be mindful of Allah in these six things. Whenever you think of you want to do something, if you're angry and you want to scorn someone, be mindful of Allah. If you want to defame someone, to make a joke or other than that, be mindful of Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to call someone a nickname and you know that they don't like it, be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to spy on someone to find something out just for yourself and not for any major benefit, be mindful of Allah. If you want to speak badly about someone that is not going to help someone progress in that which is good, be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be mindful of Allah. And if you have any suspicion of someone that is not justified, be mindful of Allah and take the proper process within that. As we see within Islam, it does not hold you hostage. Because many times we see, subhanAllah, there may be, in numerous times, there may be women that may be trapped in a marriage. And they may be physically abused. You may find children physically abused. You may find children that don't know how to speak to their parents. And they feel that there's nowhere to go. No, Islam has given you a process. If someone wants to vent, and one scholar mentioned, he asked the question, I'll conclude here, is it okay for someone to vent to a friend, to someone else, and that friend has no relation to the person that has oppressed them? For instance, it's a boss, he's Muslim, comes to the masjid, but he treats his employees terribly, and this brother is a brother or a sister that works with that person. Is it allowed for that sister or brother to go home to their husband or to their friend and say, you know what, I'm facing so much trouble. This brother doesn't pay us on time. He curses at people. He screams at me if I make a mistake. Now, does that brother, would he want that to be disclosed? No. Is it allowed for that person to vent to their friend? It's allowed. It's allowed for that person to do that to their friend. And yes, it should be that friend's responsibility not to spread that news. Rather, if that friend can go and speak to someone that oppressor would listen to. Does everyone understand that? If they can speak to the father or another business partner and say, look, this is what's going on. And wallahi, brothers and sisters, you will be so surprised if you're that friend that listens and you go speak to someone, that person most of the time they were like, really, I never knew my friend was like that. Or I never knew this person was like that. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to talk to them. And with this, you bring a community together. When one takes the proper means of rectifying the situation, we should not fall into the category of people that does not want to confront that which is difficult because we don't want, quote unquote, fitna. Because what will happen? Those thoughts will fester and they may turn into evil thoughts. If you see a brother that is treating his employees terribly and he's Muslim and they're not Muslim, or they're young Muslims, they're youth, and he screams at them in front of people, or he does not pay them on time or something like that, somebody needs to approach him. Someone needs to approach him. But taking the proper means and approaching him is that which is important, and ultimately this will bring a community together. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those that are adherent to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those that when looking at these 6 elements of adab and etiquette, that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen us in those, Ya Rabbil Alameen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those that within our hearts, we love the struggle of bringing the community together and bringing the hearts together upon Tawheed, upon the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا يا رب العالمين وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله